Good evening and welcome to the last Trustee Forum of 2019. I'm Dr. Margaret Gingrich, your president. I hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving and is looking forward to Christmas and the new year. This evening, we have 5 panelists joining us to discuss upcoming issues at our board meeting this Thursday and Friday. They are Jonathan Burns, trustee, Dr. Lisa Knowles, trustee, Dr. Steve Murrah, president-elect, Dr. Chris Smiley, editor, and our executive director, Kieran Burgess. So without further delay, let's start with Dr. Smiley as he discusses our generative topic on evidence-based dentistry. Chris?
Thank you, Margaret. Well, we're going to be discussing evidence-based dentistry, which is something that I think is fantastic to bring into our discussion as we wrap up 2019 and look with vision to 2020, if that's a pun. We are going to be having some focus in the journal throughout 2020 on evidence-based dentistry. So I think that it's very good that we will be discussing this at the board level. When it comes to evidence-based dentistry, the ADA has for many years worked to try to integrate evidence-based topics into general practice. If we take a look back to 2001 and the IOM report that talked about how so much of what is done in practice, and IOM is Institute of Medicine, and it's also a healthcare practice that includes dentistry, but also medicine. So much of what we were doing wasn't necessarily science-based or evidence-based, but basically related to all that we were taught in school, but maybe was more anecdotal than it was factually based. So what we are doing for the trustee meeting in our generative discussion is, I think, a very interesting format, and I compliment Karen for putting that together. And the format that we are doing, we are starting out with taking a look at some of the content that you would find on the ADA EBD webpage. So for those of you that don't know that, it's www.ebd.ada.org. And in there are a lot of critical appraisals. There are systematic reviews that the ADA has conducted. There are also practice guidelines. Now, when we take a look at doing literature searches can bring up primary forms of evidence. Those are randomized control trials, those are case studies, and the whole gamut of primary evidence. Typically, we take a look in the EBD land at an evidence pyramid, although we're kind of getting away from the evidence pyramid and going to something called the grade to take a look at the validity and reliability of individual studies. So we're going to be discussing a little bit about searches, about getting primary evidence, evaluating primary evidence. But then what I think is even better is that Karen had us take a look at a specific topic where we take a look at the primary form of evidence, the randomized control trial. We take a look at a systematic review. We take a look at the plain language discussion of it as well. And all that information is on the ADA website. So we're talking about how do we make evidence simplified and easier for dentists to access so they can start doing that in their practice. And then we're really looking at trying to get people to look at in their practice at a minimum things such as our systematic reviews and our practice guidelines. And the ADA has wonderful practice guidelines. You may recall the ones on, say, sealants and fluoride from the past, but also one that is out right now that we are looking at as part of our generative discussion, and that is on the new systematic review and guidelines for the use of antibiotics. And I think that's a wonderful one to start out on for us to take a look at because it impacts so much of our clinical practice. And part of our concern that we have with all of this is that, as Karen showed us in some of the data she brought forward, visits to the ADA website are decreasing over the years. Um, we're taking a look at anywhere from a 10 to maybe 14% decrease in visits over the past 3 or 4 years for people accessing evidence on that site. That doesn't mean they're not going elsewhere. They could be going to Cochrane, they could be going to trip bases and other areas of searching, such as PubMed. But it is concerning, and when we talk to our members, we want to make sure that we are emphasizing ways that they can implement the latest science into practice.
Moving on to TDSC, Ms. Karen Burgess.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for being with us. And planning that EBD discussion was very interesting because it's like drinking from a fire hose. There's just so much information there. And with TDSC, it's a little similar because we have a lot of information that we're going to be gaining from our out-of-state visitor. We have Michael Wilgus, who is the Director of Strategic Relations for TDSC, will be at our board meeting on Friday to give an update on that program. But I guess I'm kind of assuming that everybody knows what TDSC stands for and what TDSC is, and that's probably not true. TDSC stands for the Dentist Supply Company, and it's a company launched by the California Dental Association in response to members' desire for a buying club type program that would help rein in the cost of dental supplies. In other words, you amass a kind of a critical mass of people who are buying, you aggregate that, and the next thing you know, you're getting those big discounts, similar to what the DSOs can negotiate with these suppliers. So the goal for the TDSC was not so much generating non-dues revenue for the California Dental Association, but the idea was that this would enhance member value and have a very positive impact on membership numbers. So it launched, was very successful in California, and then of course the California Dental Association thought, hey, let's go national with this. And their original plan was to roll out across every state over the course of a year. They did not intend to seek state dental association endorsement or affiliation, but they did think that their plan would benefit organized dentistry overall because they were going to restrict who they sold to only ADA members. In other words, they weren't going to sell to non-dentists. They weren't going to sell to veterinarians or physicians, and they were not going to sell to dentists who were not ADA members. They got a huge head start on their successful rollout for this initiative by purchasing a dental supply company. So you can imagine we have at the Michigan Dental Association a similar program, or we did have a similar program, but it was built up over time, one relationship at a time, whereas TDSC could just go in, buy a dental supply company, and what came with it were all those relationships, including contracts and relationships with companies like 3M that would not give us the time of day because we were just too penny ante. So that was a great thing that helped TDSC be successful. Our program, which would have competed with TDSC, was also very successful, although it was smaller in scale. We had the endorsement of 23 state dental societies, and our model called for a revenue share with these endorsing states. So needless to say, for all being happy families within organized dentistry, TDSC really did not want to compete with our association supplies program. And so they reached out to explore an alliance, and we ended up coming to a very good agreement. They did revise their business model to include an affiliation agreement with the state societies. They also agreed to provide a revenue share to our endorsing state societies. So anybody who came on with TDSC, we're not going to lose because of the contractual relationship changing. And they also were going to reach out to the other state societies that didn't have an affiliation with us and offer them the opportunity to participate. We, of course, at the Michigan Dental Association, received significant compensation for everything that we brought to the table. And as a result, earlier this year, we wound down association supplies and transitioned to being the East Coast Customer Service Center for TDSC. Now, TDSC is primarily a web-based dental supplier offering tens of thousands of products, 40,000 products or more. And the company is right now, as of this month, doing business in every state and currently has 34 affiliation agreements with several more in the pipeline. There were a number of states that had, for example, Source One agreements that needed to let their agreement lapse before they could sign a new one, that kind of thing. So, we hope to continue to build the affiliated group because that helps a lot in getting buy-in from the members if both the state society is promoting it as well. So some of the information that Michael's going to share with us when he comes Friday is that there have been over 80,000 orders placed since the company's inception in February 2017. So 2.5 years, 80,000 orders, and many of those states we just launched in the last few months. There have been over $7 million in savings to ADA member dentists, and the average savings on dental supplies is 22%. The growth has really been phenomenal. They recently moved their inventory to a warehouse in Reno, Nevada, which I had the opportunity to tour. And I will share with you, it's a pretty amazing place with racks and racks and racks of supplies as far as you can see, as well as refrigerated rooms that are specifically for those pharmaceutical kinds of items that require refrigeration. So here in Michigan, we've had, in just the few months that we've been open, we've had almost $500,000 in orders placed since we launched in May of this year, which is pretty amazing for a ramp up. And we've been pretty successful in transitioning our association supplies customers to TDSC. As of right now, about 15% of our active members have created accounts, and that number is growing every day. So Michael Wilgus from TDSC is going to give the board more information. I'm just giving you the highlights, its growth, what the challenges and successes have been, and also share some information about what's coming next. And just as Dr. Smiley did, encouraging you to go to ebd.ada.org. If you haven't created an account and you haven't checked it out yet, I really think it would be wonderful if you took the time to visit tdsc.com to do so. I think you'll be impressed with the prices and the availability of products that you are already using. So we expect a good information sharing from Mr. Wilgus, and we also expect probably a lot of good questions and answers from our board members at that meeting on Friday. So there you have it. Thank you, Dr. Gingrich.
Thank you, Ms. Burgess. Are there any questions on TDSC? Kieran, by how many dollars is the non-dues revenue generated from TDSC lowering my MDA dues?
Oh, golly. Let me do some math here.
And this was asked by Dr. Benavenia.
Okay, so we have the deal we have with them is a revenue over over 3 years. So a flat rate revenue that we get just for being part of the deal. And then they're also paying a significant amount of expenses for our staff that support the program. So I'm at this point in time, in addition to the savings that you get on your supplies, I'm going to guess it's probably just around about between $5 and $10 a head for active licensed members. So don't publish it in the journal, Dr. Smiley, because it's mental math.
We are moving on to Dr. Steve Murat on the Component Workgroup.
Thank you,
Steve?
Thank you, Dr. Gingrich. Back in last December of 2018, then President Dr. Deborah Peters appointed the Component Workgroup to advise the board on ways to help components succeed, each of us by evaluating the existing structure, governance, and member service of the MDA component societies, identify challenges, and propose options to address those challenges. To date, the work group has met 5 times. In order to determine how best to assist components, the work group conducted a survey of the MDA component leadership to learn more about each component with respect to the structure, value of component membership, the challenges they experience, and how the MDA can assist. Challenges identified from the survey included 6. 1, recruiting component board members and officers, recruiting committee members and other volunteers, getting members to come to meetings, which I know is a big one for many of us, recruiting MDA delegates and alternates, increasing membership, which is always a challenge for us, as well as booking CE speakers. Some potential solutions. Once the results were available, each member met with their assigned components to discuss the survey results and discuss potential solutions. A list of options be provided to components. They'd be able to opt in or choose if they want, specific to their concerns. Some of the options may come with a cost, but that has not yet been determined. Following these follow-up interviews, each submitted the feedback. In particular, there's a strong desire for more support from the MDA, which of course is part of what we did with this. Karen Burgess reviewed the findings and addressed this with the executive team, providing a list of MDA support that could be offered to the components. How this will be funded has not yet been addressed. It may depend on demand, so we're still sorting out specific component needs. The work group reviewed and discussed a list of component expectations. When doing the research, there were many expectations that could have been included, but the ones provided are the minimum requirements for a component. With 26 component societies, there is a lot of redundancy and strain on the system. Each component has to have its own leaders, board, and committees. Each one must maintain its own records, manage its finances, meet its legal obligations, such as submitting reports to the state and IRS 990 forms, have its own insurance policies, etc. So you can see the strain and many challenges that particularly our smaller components have that may not have the same available resources as our larger components at the MDA, parts of the MDA. The primary barrier to combining components is the desire to have a local meeting, recognizing that members do not want to drive long distances for CE and social events. One option that could potentially solve this dilemma would be to combine small components from an administrative standpoint, but each of the current local societies would maintain its autonomy as a branch. This would reduce the administrative and leadership burden, but allow for flexibility. Each branch would need a minimum of 1 volunteer to organize local events, but there would no longer be a need for each component to be run as an independent dental society. No current component would be required to combine if they do not wish to do so, but it is expected that every component will meet the minimum expectations. If the component wants to discuss functioning and not be a branch that has local CE and social meetings, it could merge with one or more other components if that is desired by all. For components who do choose to combine, the new component that will need to be named, amount of dues set, and board selected. New bylaws would also be created with the MDA help. It would be feasible to start a pilot project to test this approach. The work group is reaching out to select components that this may benefit to determine interest in combining into one component while maintaining regional branches. Those components are Southwestern/Kalamazoo, the UP components, Macomb/Thumb/Northern Thumb, and then Livingston/Central and Washtenaw. To date, there has been a fairly positive response from the components, although discussions are ongoing. The work group will meet again in January to discuss the communications with these components and make recommendations regarding next steps. Thank you.
Next, we'll be moving on to Dr. Lisa Knowles with Special Promotional Incentives. Lisa?
Hi, thank you, Dr. Gingrich, for the opportunity to be here tonight on the panel. This topic that I'm going to be talking about came up to the board via the Committee on Membership. And just to give a little background about this topic, the ADA Strategic Promotional Incentive is where this comes from, and we tend to follow it or align with it. And it is a 50% dues reduction of active member dues geared towards special targeted segments, as recommended by the ADA Council on Membership and approved by the ADA Board of Trustees. The MDA Board has previously voted to match the ADA Strategic Promotional Incentive reductions. The focus of the SPI, Strategic Promotional Incentive, is to offer a financial incentive to non-members to encourage them to join. So to increase membership and maybe just reacquaint members who haven't been a part of the MDA after a while to consider and give them a special ask to join. In addition, the offer provides a context in which to promote the value for membership. The SPI offers have generally received a response rate that is aligned with other ADA recruitment campaigns, and the first SPI was approved in 2008 for implementation in 2009. The SPI varies from year to year. Dentists may take advantage of the SPI rate only once and is only available to dentists who owe full dues. The incentive is offered January to June, and in 2020 will target non-member active licensed dentists who are in one of these groups. One, they would be specialists. Two, they would be diverse, which means underrepresented ethnic diversity and women. Or in the third category, they've recently lapsed membership in the most recent membership years between 2014 and 2018, which will cast a net of approximately about 1,000 members that we could be maybe wooing back into membership and reacquainting them with the MDA. So we'll be talking about this and considering this on the board at our meeting on Friday and talking about strategic promotional incentives.
Thank you, Lisa. Are there any questions for Lisa on the special promotional incentives? Seeing none, we will move on to Dr. Jonathan Burns.
We have 5 awards that we are that we were giving out this year, and we give those out on Friday during executive session because we talk about people's personalities. We talk about the value of the of each contribution. So that is done in executive session. Last year, we did not receive nominations for at least one of these awards, and I would like to encourage people to nominate for these awards. They're really important that we give out the awards and recognize our leaders and people in the community that are really helping us. So the first award is the Matt Uday New Dentist Leadership Award. It's for new dentists that have demonstrated leadership qualities, and it's open to obviously members, dentists who are members of the Michigan Dental Association, but they have to be graduated within the last 10 years. So that's for new dentists only. The next award is the Public Relations Award, and that's either to an MDA dentist or a component society as well. And that's to recognize public relation efforts of the dentist or the society. So that could be That could be some kind of event that a component has run to recognize the component doing an event, or something special for public relations that a dentist has done. The next award is a public service award. Now, the public service award is different because it's not an MDA dentist that usually gets this award. It could be a representative of the public media. It could be the dental profession or an auxiliary group. It could also be a layman or an organization that's contributed to the goals of our profession. It could be a politician, for example. It could be somebody who is publicizing or giving some kind of service for dentistry. And it's to recognize exceptional contributions to the public and the dental profession in the field of dental health and related activities. The next award is the Bolton Dentist Citizen of the Year Award. And this is open only to dentists who are members of the MDA. This is for outstanding or unusual contributions or service to the community, state, or country. So pretty general about what this award is, but it's more for service for this one. Finally, our highest award is the Nolan Meritorious Award, and that's open to dentist, individual, or organization. And the purpose of the award is to honor a dentist or other individuals for material contributions to the Michigan Dental Association or toward the advancement, art, or science of dentistry. So that's also pretty general award. It is perfectly fine if somebody is qualified for more than one award to nominate them for more than one award. It gives the board a little bit of leeway in maybe awarding the most appropriate award for that person. And thank you very much, Margaret.
There's a question from Dr. Lauren Vanderhoof. Where does one go if they would like to nominate someone for an award?
Many times the awards are due on November 1st. There's nomination forms on the website. And many times you have to get a component president to write a letter as well. So like a nomination letter in addition to filling out the form. That's usually the two things that are required.
If you go on the website, I think it's under governance, which is on the tab that's all the way over to the right. You go in there and then you'll see that there are those awards listed under there with the criteria and how to nominate somebody as well. Is another way. Or you can contact any one of the trustees. They can help you with how to get the paperwork as well. Thank you very much. Is there any other questions for Dr. Burns? Thank you. Moving on, Teledentistry Work Group, Dr. Smiley.
Thank you, Dr. Gingrich. So the Teledentistry Work Group was formed, and it was under the auspices of CGIA to take a look at the evolving presence and marketplace of teledentistry. Now, as I'm sure many of you know, teledentistry's a service that we have that is intended to allow for access to care where a provider may not be on site. Logically, you can take a look at this as being extrapolated to rural areas, and that you could see that it could very much have a presence in the whole alternative provider discussions, mid-level provider discussions, where a provider might be in need of contacting a dentist in order to have a service delegated to them. But I think we have to think beyond that type of a scenario because there are many other venues where dentists are not available and where a population is underserved that may not simply be rural. One that has come to our attention is in the hospital setting. In my community in Grand Rapids, we've worked very hard for decades to try to get the local hospitals to start a general practice residency program for dentistry, and they haven't done it. And they have worked with, say, having oral surgeons on staff to field all of their dental needs. But what they have found recently is with the pressure that they have on controlling opioid prescriptions and so forth, with the sheer number of people who present to the emergency department, they didn't have much to offer them. So what they're doing is they're going to be contracting with a teledentistry organization at the hospital. So for all the patients who present to the hospital, they will then be sent over to a kiosk where they will be triaged by a teledentist, I believe out of St. Louis, either St. Louis or Kansas City. And they will then be recommended to have some sort of prescription, typically by the emergency department doctor, based on the triage from the teledentist. That'll be an interesting arena to see this evolve. The work group that has met on behalf of the MDA has developed template legislation. It's all aspirational because there really isn't a movement to introduce any sort of legislation at this time, but we want to have it in our pockets so we're ready to go. It talks about standards of care. It talks about how things are to be delegated and what sort of services that can be delegated. One glitch that we have in the aspirational language as it currently stands talked about recognition that this is a digital endeavor. Typically, teledentistry is something that is done remotely, that is digitized information. And so we spoke to the need to have registered dental assistants or hygienists taking digital impressions. Problem is that that's not part of CODA training. CODA speaks very directly about different forms of impression taking for dental assistants, such as final orthodontic impressions with PVS or with Alginate and so forth. It's very specific on what type of impression can be taken, and it doesn't talk about digital impressions. And digital scans, digital impressions, if that were to be mandated, could put great financial hardship on many training programs that would have to purchase that type of equipment to train their team. So the legislation, the draft legislation as it stands right now, will probably be going back to CGIA and to the work group to reconsider some of this information. But nonetheless, it is something that for teledentistry has been developed by the work group. And if you want to know as far as the standing of teledentistry, there are 2 codes that we have in CDT already for reporting teledentistry. There's both synchronous and asynchronous. That is to say, where you are in a teledentistry format, much like our Zoom conference currently, and the allied professional, say a hygienist, is going to want to have the patient accepted and then delegated to do scaling and root planing or something like that. And the dentist is using their knowledge for treatment planning and diagnosis to delegate that patient in real time. That's synchronous. Or you would report if all the data was collected and sent to the dentist, and on a remote site, the dentist would then delegate the duties to be done at a later date. That would be asynchronous. And you can currently report that right now. And considering that I had patients contacted me over vacation from Beaver Island showing me pictures of a swelling in their mouth, I've got to figure out which code I'm going to use for that. I'm not going to report it. But anyhow, that's my report on teledentistry.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Dr. Smiley on teledentistry? Seeing none, we will move on to the policy of treating pregnant women. Dr. Knowles?
Okay, my second topic here is about treating pregnant women, and just some background there too. I know a lot of this depends on our training. Back when I graduated about 21 years ago, we were advised to only treat women in their second trimester. From what I'm told in generations before me, they were advised not to treat pregnant women. So there's been a lot of evolution of what do we do and what is the best way to treat pregnant women. So the MDA Committee on Access to Care and Committee on Government and Insurance Affairs revisited this discussion at their joint meeting, and members of both committees agreed that there should be a comprehensive policy statement from the MDA recommending that members adopt current guidelines for the treatment of pregnant women at all stages as appropriate in evidence-based practice. So the background on this and more came from communications with the Committee on Access to Care with the State Perinatal Advisory Workshop, feedback from public health partners through the Michigan Oral Health Coalition, and a study of Michigan dentists that despite much research on the safety and importance of providing dental treatment to pregnant women throughout pregnancy, many dentists have not implemented current recommendations in their practices. So the committee believes that efforts to educate pregnant women and medical professionals on the importance of dental treatment throughout pregnancy are effective, and more women are seeking care. The committee agrees that it's equally important to educate dentists and their staff on current treatment guidelines and programs such as the Medicaid Enhanced Dental Benefit for pregnant women to ensure care is available when sought. Research indicates that many pregnant women seeking care from all socioeconomic backgrounds are still told that they cannot be treated while pregnant. So we are going to be looking at this and working to erase that thought, that educational information that's out there right now. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services has been engaged in a campaign to increase awareness for several years. And as part of that campaign, guidelines for dental professionals were released in 2015. These guidelines were comprised of research and recommendations from several recognized organizations. And the MDA has published these guidelines and other information on this issue, including liability concerns. The MDA does not currently have policy on the treatment of pregnant women, but the ADA policy does. And this is the current ADA policy. It says the dental examinations for pregnant women and women of childbearing age. Resolve that the ADA urge all pregnant women and women of childbearing age to have a regular dental examination. And treatment during pregnancy, it's resolved that the ADA acknowledges that preventive, diagnostic, and restorative dental treatment to promote health and eliminate disease is safe throughout pregnancy and is effective in improving and maintaining the oral health of the mother and her child. So we will be looking at this issue and discussing it a little bit on Friday as well, and hopefully helping to educate our peers and get the word out that we probably need to be advocating that pregnant women need to be seen throughout their, and can be safely seen throughout their entire pregnancy. And we'll be reviewing this, see if we're going to align our policies to be as similar as the ADA's current policy.
We have one, it says Melanie Mayberry lectures on this at the MDA annual session. It was a great lecture. So if you get a chance, check to see if she's giving that topic anywhere else. She's from University of Detroit Mercy, and so I think she does other topics as well. So look for her hopefully in the future on this subject. Is there any further questions? Seeing none, we will be moving on to the policy of interprofessional education. Ms. Burgess?
Yes, thank you. I luckily have my board book right here, and it's interesting. This report also came from the Committee on Access to Care, and it's on the idea of interprofessional education, but it relates to one of the generative discussions that the board had earlier this year on medical dental integration. You know, there is a trend towards greater and greater recognition that the oral cavity is a part of the actual body, and that the work that dentists do is aligned appropriately with physicians and other healthcare providers. We're also seeing that there are more and more opportunities for dentists to be more in tune and screening or looking for things that they see in a dental exam and dental care treatment that is really a part of their systemic health. So it is interesting to see. I know that University of Michigan has a large emphasis on training interprofessionally for not just dentists and physicians, but also nursing and other health professions, pharmacy. And the University of Detroit Mercy also has a program that they do in cooperation with the University of Oakland's William Beaumont School of Medicine. And Dr. Mayberry actually spoke to that for us, and she spoke to that for the Committee on Access to Care. So there was a feeling that on the committee that we should be facilitating and have a policy in support of ensuring there's adequate communication, adequate education, and kind of seeing outside of our own dental world. We often look to other state societies and to the ADA, and what we found was that while the ADA did not have a policy, the American Student Dental Policy did, or pardon me, American Student Dental Association did have a policy. And the committee looked at that policy and felt that it was a very strong and appropriate one. So it is their recommendation that the board approve the following proposed policy: that the Michigan Dental Association supports opportunities for interprofessional education and collaboration with other healthcare professions to improve the understanding of oral and systemic health. Now, if you were to go to the board meeting, you would see that there would be a discussion on this resolution. You might see a little wordsmithing of the policy if people felt it was not exactly what they would like to see. And then whatever gets approved will become MDA policy. And with that policy in place, there would be likely some greater emphasis on activities that support that policy. So that is my report on the Committee on Access to Care's recommendation.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Ms. Burgess? Seeing none, we'll be moving on to our last topic of the evening, which is the MDA Foundation. We have some very good news. The MDA Foundation is kicking off their fourth quarter, which is usually their highest grossing revenue quarter. It is kicking off with scholarship outreach, year-end appeal, the MDA Foundation board nomination, their November meeting, and the hiring of an intern from the Michigan State University. The foundation received 92 scholarship applications this year. This is the largest amount of scholarship applications that they have ever received. They were from 8 different dental, hygiene, and assisting schools, which is quite an outreach this year. So I commend the foundation for getting out to all of those schools and recruiting and getting the applications to come in. The committee awarded $13,500 to 11 of those 92 scholarship applicants. The scholarship committee was able to talk to 78 of the 92 applicants. So some money went out to some very well-deserving individuals this year. The MDA Foundation is also working on their year-end campaign, which is beginning in early October. And to date, they have received about $16,000 over last year, although they have set a goal of raising $70,000. So they are a little over halfway, and they're hoping that you will be generous and be looking at donating above and beyond what is on your donation or what is on the due statement renewal, or think about your year end and helping bump up that goal and reach that $70,000. Another thing that the MDA Foundation has done is they have asked for the board to have an expectation of 100% participation with their board in donating. And they set a goal of $55,000, and they waived they superseded it by over $12,000 this year. So they are now asking the MDA board to consider attaining the same percentage of giving 100% of our board to be giving to the foundation, since we are the parent board. And we will be having a discussion on that on Friday. And if any of the donations that will be coming in before December 31st can be used for your 2019 tax benefits. Another thing that the foundation has been working on is their planned giving. This was something that they started up a year ago, and they had small goals that they were trying to attain, and they've actually gone way above and beyond with the amount that they are getting with those as well. So if you are interested in your planned giving, you can talk with Sue Karen or with Nancy Mayer or the president as well, Norm Palm, on ways on how to give planned giving. They have also will be giving the nominations to our board for who will be going on to their board this year, and we will be voting on that. And also on November 4th, they had Mr. Evan Werbrock, who joined the MDA Foundation as their first intern from the Michigan State University, and he's studying kinesiology and nursing with a minor in English. He has great, excellent writing background and will be helping them with their newsletter and the journal articles and website and social media. So if you get a chance to meet him, please welcome him and introduce yourself to him. Are there any questions? I see one. Oh, was it answered, I think, already? Yep. So Karen was able to answer Dr. Benavides.
I wondered, yeah, I answered it privately just because I don't know the answer to it. I know you can pay online, but I did not know. He asked specifically about Apple Pay. And it's like, if we're not doing Apple Pay or PayPal, it would be great if we did, but I don't know the answer to that. And I don't know, do you happen to know, Dr. Gingrich?
I don't know on that, but I do know you can go on the website on www.smilemichigan.com. Up in the corner, you'll see that there's a tab to go to the foundation, and there a place comes up where you can donate right online. So I don't think at this time that they have Apple Pay, but maybe that is something that they should be looking into. And are there any other questions on the foundation or any of the other topics that we discussed this evening? I'm not seeing any questions that are coming up. So thank you all for attending and learning about what your MDA board is currently discussing. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me via email at drmargaret04@gmail.com or on my cell phone at 616-560-2255. Our next forum will be scheduled for February 20th at 7 p.m. So please mark your calendars, and we hope to see you all there. And until then, I hope you have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you.